It's been nearly a year since the Russell Westbrook to the Los Angeles Lakers trade from the Washington Wizards. Obviously, the deal was the Lakers sent Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and the 22nd pick in the last year's draft for Russell Westbrook. So myself, Will Locklin, and Matt Levine here with TWSN, we're going to break down this trade kind of a year later. We're going to take a look at the Lakers in this past year and what they've experienced with Russell Westbrook, and also the future outlook of what he'll bring to the team, or if they potentially will be willing to trade him and what they could get. And we're also going to take a look at the Washington Wizards and the production that they've received from the players that they got. So Matt, what team do you kind of want to start with here?
Well, let's just kind of talk about the trade for a minute. It was a year ago, not exactly, because the trade ended up happening draft day 2021. The draft was a little later in the year last season, but tomorrow's the NBA draft, and this was one of those moves that it was the blockbuster of the summer last year. It kind of, at least people thought, it shifted power back to the Los Angeles Lakers. They formed this big three of Westbrook, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and it completely flopped. That's the thing. Like, if you asked anybody a year ago, even the people who had the biggest doubts about whether or not that these three players would work well together, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw them missing the playoffs entirely.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a disaster of a season for the Los Angeles Lakers. And quite frankly, they missed some of the players that they traded away. I mean, Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, those two guys were core pieces on that championship team in 2020. They played defense. They knocked down threes, and they missed that. It was clear. And they both played pretty well for the Washington Wizards. Montrezl Harrell was more of the throw-in piece, at least in my opinion, because he couldn't even get on the court in the playoffs for the Clippers, for the Lakers. If the Wizards had made the playoffs, I'm sure he wouldn't have played. I mean, he got traded, so if he had made the playoffs with any of his teams, he wouldn't have. So I feel like he was kind of like a throw-in at that point. And the Lakers sent their first-round pick from last season as well. I think that was the biggest thing for me from this trade, is that the Lakers traded a pick for Westbrook, and look how badly it's kind of flopped. And now there's talk of them having to possibly trade other first-round picks just to get rid of the guy.
Right.
I don't know. As a Wizards fan, you dealt with Westbrook for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this coming? Because Westbrook was pretty efficient when he played with Washington.
Yeah, for his standards. Yeah, no, Westbrook. The Westbrook with the Wizards 1-year experiment was just a complete roller coaster. And it was a roller coaster, I guess, for the Lakers too, but maybe with a lot more downs than ups. It was pretty half and half for the Wizards. In the first half of the year, he kind of dealt with an injury, and clearly, he was playing through that, and he wasn't really good. But in the second half, I mean, he was playing like an all-star. He was legitimately there was a lot of hype. I kind of bought into it. Didn't play all that well in the playoffs. I mean, he had a couple good games, if I remember correctly, against the Sixers in that first round series. And then that was it. And so I was satisfied with them, with kind of what we got from him. Because it was a fun, that play-in game against I believe it was the Indiana Pacers to get clinched the playoffs. Westbrook played great in that game. I think he had I don't think he had a triple-double, but he put up nearly 30 points in that game, if I remember correctly.
He was the best player on the court for you.
Yeah, and it was an extremely fun game to watch as a Wizards fan. Him and Beal were honestly a really fun duo, but again, you knew because of Westbrook's age, it was definitely best for the Wizards to, make a move. And when they made the move originally for the Wizards, I was pretty positive on it. I definitely thought that, it was I think the reaction was a bit that it was win-win. Like you said, the Lakers had the hype in terms of being a championship contender. Even some people labeled them as favorites after the Westbrook move. Others were skeptics. I was kind of in the middle. But then for the Wizards, I thought we definitely, did really well getting the pieces that we got. But, I mean, if you look at a year from now, I think it's kind of clear that the Wizards are clear-cut winners from this deal. But, yeah, just kind of talk about what they got. Originally, because the Wizards, the thing is, they've made so many additional moves with the pieces that they got in that original Lakers deal. They have KCP and Kuzma, and they're still on the roster right now. But Montrezl Harrell, like we said, had a really good, half season for the Wizards until the trade deadline. They ended up trading him to Charlotte and got Vernon Carey Jr. back, who was he played at Duke in college. And then Ish Smith, who was a former Wizard, and he's kind of like a fan favorite player, really good locker room presence. They got him back from Charlotte as well, and then they also traded that 22nd pick later that same day that they got from the Lakers. They traded that to the Indiana Pacers for Aaron Holiday and Isaiah Todd. And then another final move that really doesn't mean anything. Aaron Holiday, he was a Wizard for a couple months, and they traded him away to Phoenix for like cash, which I think opened up a bit of salary room, which is cool. So yeah, I mean the Wizards ultimately what they've gotten from the deal is KCP, Kuzma, Vernon Carey, Ish Smith, and Cash, and Isaiah Todd. I forgot to mention Isaiah Todd was a rookie who played in the G League. He actually played for G League Ignite with Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga before he was drafted, and he played in the G League for the Wizards affiliate Capital City Go-Go.
You can honestly make the argument that all of those players were more effective than Russell Westbrook was last season.
Well, Isaiah Todd didn't play for our actual team,
the majority of the players at least. Because Kuzma had a breakout year.
He only played 3 games for us, actually. So that's kind of one where the production...
At least the main players within that deal.
Yeah, no.
Right? Kyle Kuzma had a breakout season for the Washington Wizards. Mm-hmm. KCP, he is just KCP. Like, he's good. He's not great, but he's a good role player you want on your team. There's talk that the Wizards might be looking to trade him now.
That was what I was going to say. Is like, I think KCP,
we'll see.
Yeah.
But, with Russell Westbrook, it was just like he had his numbers, right? But he just never fit in with this team. The fit between him and LeBron James never worked. He never took accountability for his struggles. I think that's the biggest problem with Westbrook. And I think that's been the thing that's followed him his entire career. He doesn't take accountability when he struggles. He says, I just got to be better. Okay, but what are you going to do about that then? He's been doing this his entire career. So, I will agree. The Washington Wizards won that trade by a far margin.
And the thing is, you can kind of argue at the time, like there were certainly people, like in my opinion, I was like, I think you can make, like when the trade happened at the time, I thought the consensus feeling was that the Lakers won because they got the best player in the deal, or seemingly the best player, which made sense. But I thought you could made the argument, even though I do have a bias because I'm a Wizards fan, that like the Wizards, won the trade, or they at least based on what could happen next year, the Wizards could certainly come out winning. But yeah, now it's as clear cut as ever at this point. And to kind of, wrap up the Wizards, I think moving forward, like you said, let's actually talk about Kyle Kuzma a bit, because like he said, like this is like the biggest reason. Again, the Wizards, they didn't get any like franchise altering talent from this deal. It's not like a complete fleece job just because, Kyle Kuzma is pretty good now, but he's not
great though. He'll never be a star.
He's not going to change your franchise or anything. So it's not like the Wizards got like complete highway robbery here just because they got good talent, not great. But like you said, Kyle Kuzma really improved, I would say. He had a bigger role on the Wizards, certainly, than he had with the Lakers, was a starter in a lot more games, played more minutes, got more shots. He took advantage. His efficiency was about the same, which felt weird because it's like, based on the eye test, I thought Kuzma was like a really good three-point shooter in the games that I watched for the Wizards. But like, percentage-wise, he only shot 34%, and I think that number could certainly come up.
He's very hit or miss.
Right.
He'll go cold, and then he goes on like a 3-game stretch where he can't miss.
Yeah.
That's kind of the Kyle Kuzma you get.
The thing is, he had more of those hot games with the Wizards, at least from just like a eye test perspective, than he did with the Lakers. And again, more shots, bigger role. I think he played better defense for us for most of the year. His defense was actually like, I think he was a positive on defense versus with the Lakers wasn't very good. And his assist numbers, rebounding, it all went up. Like he was clearing the offensive and defensive glass for us consistently. So Kuzma played great. To kind of hit on KCP is like the other core piece of this deal. And I actually think KCP is at this point, his value has to be when it comes to trading him. Because at this point, like he is on the last year of his contract. So it's like the perfect guy to trade to a real contending team, which I don't believe the Wizards will be. He's the perfect piece to kind of trade to a contending team because of his three-point shooting, his defense, and the Wizards can get more assets in return. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think KCP is better suited on a team that can contend because, he was with Detroit for so long before he went to the Lakers. Yeah, people knew about him. He was okay, but like he never got that like recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a three-point shooter and a defender. That's what he does. That's what he does well. And he was okay on the Wizards, but I think he needs to be on a team that's competing for something, because he is like the perfect like plug-in player. Like I'm envisioning him, put him on the Golden State Warriors, right? Or put him on the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics or something like that. He's
He'd fit
going to
great on
thrive.
the Celtics, yeah.
Like, he's going to thrive for you. He's going to hit big time shots. He's going to play defense. He can attack the rim when he wants to. So, yeah, Washington would probably be better served to try and trade him, because they could probably get some decent value for him at this point.
They can get draft capital, a young player that they could develop, anything at this point. Which would definitely be good for the Wizards. And one final thing about KCP is his defense, ironically enough, with the Wizards, I think it took a kind of a steep decline, but I actually think it's not because of his ability. I mean, he is not really getting any younger, but it's more of just because the Wizards, like we said, they're not a contending team, and it's like when role players go from like KCP, he had that, I forget what game it was with the Lakers in the NBA Finals, but didn't he have the game where he hit 6 threes?
Game 4, he was kind of the unsung hero.
He was arguably their third best player in the finals.
Yeah, he was
against the Miami Heat when they won the ring, at least in that one series. And so he had all the effort on defense was there. It's like when you go from that to a team like the Wizards, where they're in the middle of the pack, your defensive effort and your hustle, it's not going to be on the same level. So I think his defensive ability is still there, even though it did decline. And then, Vernon Carey Jr. could be a nice rotational big. Ish Smith, good locker room leader, I believe. And Isaiah Todd could be, again, another good kind of like a stretch four that they could play as a backup to Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah.
So, I'd say that's it for the Wizards. And, kind of wrapping up for the Lakers, Russell Westbrook obviously didn't. Matt, do you want to talk about, you've kind of hinted or talked about what was bad, but moving forward, what do you think is going to be the situation with Westbrook and the Lakers?
Yeah, so the Lakers recently hired Darvin Ham to take over as the head coach. He has talked about getting Westbrook to sacrifice and play defense, and he has said that Westbrook has told him he's buying into this. But we heard this last year. There was those reports that came out that LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Westbrook all met up before the trade went down, being like, "Hey, we can work this out. We're all going to sacrifice." It clearly did not work. Westbrook did not sacrifice. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is if Russell Westbrook is on the Los Angeles Lakers roster to begin the season, he needs to come into the season with the mindset of being a glorified role player, not a star. I know he's getting paid like a star player, but if he can fit into this, I think the Lakers can have something. Because if Anthony Davis and LeBron James can stay healthy, or at least relatively healthy, 60 games, and Russell Westbrook comes into it with this sacrifice mindset, I think the Lakers can be what we all thought they could have been last season. But the problem is Russell Westbrook going to do that? And if you're the Lakers, are you really bringing this guy back? I know all the reports are showing that they might, but why do you want that headache? He clearly showed he didn't fit. The fans booed him multiple times throughout the season. And it's not easy to play on the Los Angeles Lakers because the fans expect greatness. And if you're not great, you're going to hear it from the fans. It doesn't matter if you've been there for 10 years, 1 year. They don't care. They will boo you, basically.
Saw the same thing with Dwight Howard, back in 2012.
Exactly.
It was a Hall of Fame player who obviously wasn't at their best when they joined the Lakers, but, kind of expected them to be just a moderate version of what they were at the peak of their powers. And yeah, like you said, you kind of saw that with Dwight Howard in 2012. He got a lot of hate from Lakers fans, and so did Westbrook. But yeah, I think in terms of the future outlook, I don't think Westbrook wants to be on the Lakers. He was really outspoken that he did not like. And to be fair, when Westbrook's family's in attendance at a Lakers game, Lakers fans shouldn't be that harsh. I think that's pretty unacceptable. To a degree. I defend Westbrook on that end, and because of that, I don't really think he wants to be on the Lakers. I think he certainly wants to play with LeBron and Anthony Davis, but like you said, the Lakers as a whole, I'm not really sure if Westbrook's vibing with the organization and even the fan base, even though I'm sure he does love LA. He's a Los Angeles kid.
He's heard all the talk, man. He's had to. He's clear. He commented about it. But it's the Lakers don't have many options at this point. You keep Westbrook, right? Hope that he buys in and then maybe trade him at the deadline. But at that point, you've already kind of wasted half your season. You can, if you're the Lakers, you can cut him, right? But he's probably not going to agree to a buyout. He's making too much money. You're not going to pull a John Wall and tell him to stay at home because he's not going to do that. Like, that's just Russell Westbrook. He's not going to do that. You can trade him, but the problem is if you trade him, you're more likely you're not going to have to take on bad contracts. And the beauty of Russell Westbrook's contract is that while it is $47 million once he picks up his option, it is over at the end of this season. So if you're the Lakers, you look. The problem with the Lakers right now is you have LeBron James on the roster. With him on the roster, you are looking to compete for a championship. Can you basically sell him? We can try this again with Westbrook, and if it doesn't work, we will go all in the next season when that $47 million comes off the books. Because if you're the Lakers, is one season potentially of LeBron competing worth taking on all these bad contracts? For instance, like Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, who are all signed for 3 to 4 years, $20-something million each. Because I don't think that that's worth it. The Lakers are bigger than LeBron James. I get he's on the roster right now, but one season of guaranteed LeBron is not worth taking on these bad contracts. Now, if you can go flip Westbrook for something that is of value, maybe that's fine. You know, there's all these rumors going on about Kyrie Irving possibly leaving the Brooklyn Nets, and the Lakers were rumored to be one of the teams that would be interested and that he might be interested in. There's been rumors coming out today that the Lakers are the biggest threat to take Irving from Brooklyn, that maybe him and James have been in contact to reunite in LA. If you can flip Russell Westbrook and get Kyrie Irving, you do it. I don't like you just do it.
And that was going to be like the drastic way that the Lakers could like somehow twist this into their favor moving forward, all from the Westbrook Wizards trade, is they do a 3-team trade, because there's no way that the Nets would take Russell Westbrook from the Lakers' hands and trade away Kyrie. That's not happening. So it'd have to be a 3 or maybe even 4-team deal. Who knows? With sometimes the NBA just have 3-team deals that turn into 4-team deals for like no reason at all. But yeah, it would have to be another
Remember the Dwight Howard trade. That was a 4-team deal.
Yeah, exactly.
With Orlando and the Sixers, and it was just a whole mess basically.
But yeah, no, I mean, so if the Lakers, they're interested in Kyrie Irving, if they could they'd obviously get Kyrie. Another team would have to take Westbrook. That's
maybe the Charlotte Hornets.
A very unrealistic but drastic way, like you said, Charlotte. But I mean, that's like the drastic way that this could like end up being like a ridiculously positive thing. But even then, like Kyrie Irving, he does have his fair share of things too. It's obviously way more talented than Westbrook at this stage of his career. Like he's a bona fide star, all NBA caliber player when he's on the court. But like we said, Kyrie Irving does some weird things too. So it's not exactly a perfect situation.
Well, let me ask you this
but it would be better.
Before we finish this up. Well, I'm just curious in your opinion. I've heard this notion that Westbrook's contract is untradeable because it's $47 million and it's the way he played. And you cannot tell me that a $47 million expiring contract is not tradable in the NBA.
I stopped believing in the term untradeable contract when the two seemingly most untradeable contracts were traded for each other. When the Wizards got Russell Westbrook, they traded John Wall for Russell Westbrook, and that, like, John Wall was traded with that much money. They were literally traded for each other, and since then, there was once upon a time when Chris Paul was seemingly, I believe it was his last season in Houston, where he didn't really, it didn't really end up very well, and obviously we know Chris Paul has tapped into a whole new level since then. But people were like, "Oh, Chris Paul's contract is terrible. He's making this much money," and I mean that was wrong thinking. But I don't think there's a single untradeable contract in the NBA. Truly, even like Tobias Harris, he's tradable. It's not a good. There's definitely such thing as bad contracts, or you could say the worst contract in the league. But is any contract untradeable? I truly don't believe it is in today's NBA at all. I don't buy that.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially when it's an expiring deal like this. Because for whatever team, if you trade for him, you could buy him out, or he plays for you. You're done with him at the end of the year. You have all of that money coming off the books. If your team, like Indiana or Orlando or Charlotte or someone like that who does not have that championship mindset this season, why not take a gamble on Westbrook? I mean, you can attest to this. The Wizard players were all talking about his leadership that entire year and how they were thankful he was there for that year. So it's not like he's a bad guy. It's not like he's not respected around the league.
I mean, right.
He
I think
just
the
went on the
Wizards.
Lakers and played with LeBron James, and it didn't work out. And when you play with LeBron James and things don't work, it gets magnified. That's basically what happened.
The team chemistry with Westbrook on the Wizards was quite good. I think like it was a good situation. Mainly, I mean, Scott Brooks was our coach too, and that was a big reason that I'm sure we traded for him in the first place. That's because that relationship was there in place. But yeah, no, Westbrook can certainly make it work in other situations. It's clear that the Lakers hasn't worked out though. But before we get on out of here, Matt, let's just kind of like wrap this up by giving like final, I guess, 1 year grades for how this would go. So Matt, what would be your grade for the Wizards and grade for the Lakers?
I'd say a C+ for the Wizards because I think
Okay.
Kuzma was a good piece that they got. KCP, we'll see what happens with him. They ended up trading Harrell, like you said. So I'd say C+, maybe B-, just because I think Kuzma has some untapped game in him that I think he'll end up showing. And for the Lakers, I mean, it's an F. Straight up an F. Because they missed the playoffs entirely. Their future is murky at best, and they might have to attach first-round picks just to get off of this contract.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like this is a Westbrook. I can't believe looking back, I can't believe we didn't have to attach any picks. We got a pick for
you gave the Lakers 2 second-round picks.
Oh wait, yes, we did. I forgot to mention. Yeah, okay. So we
I
didn't have to attach
guess
any
maybe okay,
picks?
D- for the Lakers because at least they got second-round picks.
Yeah, okay.
Which they have hit on a few of those lately. So D, I'll give them a D- instead of
all right, yeah. For me, I guess I'll give them a. Well, I'll give the Wizards a B. Like I said, maybe it would be an A if like Kuzma actually like becomes a star, like Vernon Carey Jr. I don't know if one of these young players becomes something really big, but it's like I don't really think you can give the Wizards an A, considering that they didn't, like I said, they didn't get great talent. They got good talent, and good pieces, and they got options and flexibility. Like the reality is with Westbrook, the Wizards were a little pigeonholed, like salary cap wise, and this has kind of opened up more opportunities for them to even make like the Spencer Dinwiddie move that they made, which they flipped and got Kristaps Porzingis. So it's just giving them flexibility and options, which is something that when you have Westbrook for that much money and you're not getting that much in return, you really don't have any options. And that's exactly why I would give the Lakers, like you said, a D-. I would actually agree with that because, like I said, second round picks, cool. Maybe elevates it from an F to a D-. And there is like the potential to make this work in their favor if they can fleece someone with a Westbrook trading. Kyrie Irving's almost certainly not going to happen, but it's
I think he ends up staying
since they're interested in him. And yeah, I mean, they could, work something out to get something good in return for Westbrook. But Matt, if you nothing else to say here, we'll head on out of here. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Russell Westbrook to the Westbrook Lakers and Wizards trade revisited 1 year. This was really fun to do. We should definitely do honestly more of these like revisited trades in the future. And of course, if you want to see more, I'm on the On the Ball show, which is Thursday nights, and Matt is on the TWSN show, which is on Tuesday nights. Of course, you can subscribe to the TWSN YouTube channel for more content like this, more NBA mock drafts. Drafts coming out tomorrow or today, depending on when you're seeing this. But that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.